Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
Satan's 4 steps to crush Christianity. Step 1, feminism breaks gender, sex, marriage, life, family, legacy. It decries all masculinity as toxic, promotes sexual perversion, pornography, birth control, abortion, and divorce. That was the 60s and 70s. Step 2, transgenderism promotes perversion, addiction, mental health issues, which minimizes and marginalizes strong men in the home, church, and government. That's well underway. Step 3, this is where we're at. And make no mistake, the midterms is going to be a big tipping point for where we go. Socialism steals wealth, power, and influence from the healthiest and strongest men for the purpose of wasting it on the weakest and most incompetent people. That's where we are. Now, let me summarize this. All of this culminated, the feminism, the transgender, and the socialism, it really came to the public fore with something called Black Lives Matter. This is where feminism, transgenderism, and socialism, it came together in a public way. And where we find ourselves is headed very quickly towards step 4. Once Western civilization is deconstructed, the third way church, I'll explain this, staying in the middle, speaking in nuanced terms, and avoiding offense is neutered and worldly, while a brutal, masculine, demonic Islam rules the future through 2 things, immigration and reproduction. The problem in the church has been something called third wayism, and that is, well, there's people on the right, there's people on the left, and as Christians, we always need to stay in the middle. There is no middle with Islam. There is no middle with communism and Marxism. There is no way between Jesus and jihad. There's no way between Jesus and Marxism. There's no way between Jesus and transgenderism. There's no way between Jesus and feminism. There is right and wrong. There is good and evil. There are truth and lies. There is heaven and hell. And there is God and Satan. And if you're in the middle, you're wrong. You're going to get in trouble with them, or you're going to get in trouble with him. You're going to get in trouble. Just figure out what kind of trouble you want to get in. I don't know about you. I have no problem getting in trouble with them. I have great fear of getting in trouble with him.
Wow, good afternoon. Hi, I'm in chair. Joe is busy today, but thank you for tuning in. Class is in session, and wow, what a powerful opening right there. And we're in a battle of good versus evil. And it's not just the radical jihadis that have infiltrated America, but, you know, good versus evil, transgenderism, unchecked migration, forced vaccination, mutilation of children, right? It's all good versus evil, truth versus lies. And we're just here stuck in the middle of it because we're in the middle of a war. You feel it every day. I feel it every day. Shots aren't being fired in the streets, not yet, but it is a war. Every day there's ground that's either given or ceded or taken or conquered in this collective battlefield that we're living in called society and America. And it's a tough place to be. It is a tough place to be. Right? We have the indoctrination of our children. We have the mutilation of our children. We have the Epstein client list where yet anyone is to be arrested. You have churches that fly the rainbow flag, right? That's an insult to God in itself. Because the sign of the rainbow from God was to Noah to ensure that I will not flood the earth again. Now they are using that as a mockery of God. And what they're doing under that flag is completely evil. It's evil. Mutilation of children, the grooming of children, pure evil. And where are we in this battle? It is going on all throughout our society, younger kids in the school systems, on social media, on TV. It is pertinent, it is present every day. Hospitals still are performing these surgeries, even though Trump is taking away funding from them, right? They are still finding ways to ensure carnage on the American people. It is a good versus evil battle we're in. And you just got to take inventory and stock of yourself. Where are you in this in this cultural, religious, spiritual battle? Where are the people around you? What do you surround yourself with? And then what are you doing to either combat the evil, which I hope you do every day being you watch this show, or if you're watching this as undercover, what are you doing to perpetuate the evil? Right? That's all what it comes down to. Life can be real simple if it wasn't for all these other outside influences that are poured into us to ensure that there's chaos and divisiveness, tribalism, all amongst us, while there's a massive power and financial grab going on above us, all with the goal of obtaining a new social order. We're in the middle of all that. If you're not aware, we're in the middle of it, and it's happening. It's happening in Europe. It's happening here in America. And there are people that are being used as pawns in this. People from South America, third world migrants from across the Atlantic Ocean and Africa and sub-Saharan Africa. They're all pawns in this game, and so are we. So are we, but we're the ultimate prize to be conquered in this game. We're the ones that are still waiting to be checkmated. Are we there yet? No. Are we close? Possibly. Are we mounting a defense as a nation? I don't see it. I do see individual isolated pockets of communities that do this. But collectively, as a whole, as a nation, I don't believe we are actually confronting the evil. We're actually consumed by the evil, because those that can do something about it on the grander scale, they're complicit in it. Because this isn't just something that has happened. This is a progression over time that has just been passed down from one to the next from those in power. They say they're doing stuff, but at the end of the day, if you look at it, do you feel a difference here? Yeah, there's been some criminal illegal aliens taken away. That's a good thing, sure. But what's being done about the other immigrants that have come here, that have not committed crimes but are not being untouched? The ones that are coming here saying, I'm gonna take your land from you. I'm gonna change the way you live. I'm gonna impose my will here. What's happening to those people? Nothing. They're actually being allowed to come in. And those that come here legally, right? Because you have different groups that are allowed to come in, right? You have groups that come in illegally, but then you have groups that are allowed to come in through the visa program or temporary protective status program, and then they're allowed to bring other people in with them, right? Family reunification, stuff of that nature. So one can lead to 10 to 15 other relatives coming in legally, and you can't get rid of them, right? Even with TPS now being terminated, right? How many people are actually being deported? I'm not seeing it. I'm not just talking about Haitians. I'm talking about other groups as well that have used temporary protective status to get into America and then use it as a basically chain to bring the entire family, cousins, and whoever else over here. And then what is a nation? What makes a nation? Borders, language, culture. Those are three simple words that basically outline how do you control a nation. Borders, language, culture. You need to have borders to keep your people safe. You need to be able to check who's coming in and out of your front door. Just like you have a door on your house, just like every leftist that has a door in their house, they have a lock on the front and back. They don't leave their doors wide open to let anyone come into their house to take their food and then walk. They don't allow it. But yet for some reason they preach to allow that to happen on our borders, to allow whoever they want to come into this country for whatever reason. Doesn't matter if they want to come here to actually like work hard or do the right thing, or they want to come here and just leech off the system, get high, watch TV, collect the government check. Doesn't matter. If you want to come here, we got you. And then we'll hit you off with a cash payment as you come across the border, right? So borders, language, cultures are three things that unify a country. Now, while borders are in control, the language needs to be predominantly English, okay? Universal English on everything. But how often do you see ballots printed in English? English only? No, right? Even when you call any self-help, right? Call anybody. Press 1 for this, press 2 for that, press 3 for this, right? It's all forced upon us or brought to us in order to basically divide America, to destroy America, take America from what it was to where it's going now, which is a massive, massive just immigrant pot that we have to take anybody and everyone. And then if we don't, or if we talk out against it, we're racist, Islamophobe, and then we get branded and sent to the corner. Well, I want to play a clip from Charlie Kirk that he was debating people right up until he was shot. allegedly shot. Still got questions about that. But I want to play a clip about Charlie Kirk because this is him talking about what a nation has a right to do. Let's play cut 2.
I'm white. I don't want white people doing the roofs because I got people complaining it's hot outside.
So why don't you educate me of what mass deportations would do to your industry?
There'd be no one to work on to build back. We've already seen it in Florida.
So then allow me to provocatively then have me tell you how I hear it. Are you telling me everyone in this room is hiring illegal labor?
Not everyone, but I know I have in the past.
Okay, so everyone is saying yes. So, and again, you guys can boo me off stage, and I want to respectfully have it. And if I'm wrong, come to the mic. So is everyone here in this room committing a felony?
Yes.
Okay, good to know. You have proven a very a depressing point that we are not a nation that wants to have immigration policy. We just aren't. We're not. Like, we are not tough enough or strong enough to have mass deportations. We're just not. And I thought that we were, maybe, but maybe we could have a couple months of it. And look, as far as the compassion thing, I look at it, why is it not compassion to send them back to their country of origin? Why do they have a right to come to our nation? A nation has a right to be able to invite, be able to reject people of their choosing. And as far as the Christian standpoint of it, in Deuteronomy, in Ezekiel, all throughout the scriptures, there's plenty of examples of repelling people from coming to your nation and prioritizing them in your homeland.
Exactly so true. Exactly so true. And Charlie has such a elegant way of stating the hard truths to people. And that's why he was so well loved and respected, and ultimately why he was killed. It's amazing how does that work. They always take the good ones. They never take the evil ones too early. They always take the good ones early. But yeah, he's right. A nation has a right to accept or reject whoever wants to come into their country. Every country does it. We're the only ones that allow unchecked people to come in all the time. And then we're called racist when we say we need to make it stop, or we need to get control over the borders. We need to make sure people that are coming here are right. Well, just remember under the Biden administration, 20, 30 people came into this country illegally, unchecked, didn't matter, right? All at the same time during that, they made sure you were getting vaccinated though. You had to get vaccinated. And if you didn't get vaccinated, you lost your job. All while they let the illegal immigrants come over, not one of them were being vaccinated. There's no vax line for them coming in. So right there in itself, it showed you how much of a farce the COVID shot was. But that was purposely being done because as we come out now to see from Fauci, the COVID vaccine actually had enormous rates of miscarriage amongst women. So it was being done purposely to force vaccinations amongst Americans, to halt the fertility rate of Americans producing American babies, while at the same time allowing unchecked, unvetted, unvaccinated migrants into this country during a global pandemic. That made a lot of sense. But they were coming in being unvaxxed. Why? Because they want to make sure that population can reproduce here in America. And they want to make sure that the American population could not reproduce here in America. That's the hard truth. Or make it as hard as possible for Americans to have babies, all while at the same time making sure third world migrants did not have any barriers placed in front of them to reproduce at mass rates here in America. That's why they were not vaccinated coming into America during a global health scandal, while all along the lines, every American was forced to get vaccinated, right, at your job, or you had to come up with a fake vax card, or you were lucky to get a waiver that were majority denied, right? So many people were forced to give up their health choice, right? And the left wasn't there crying, my body, my choice during that time. No, they were not. Right? They were crying in 2020, we're not going to take the vax because it's Trump's vax. To 2021 till, hey, everyone line up or lose everything. That should tell you how much of a grift the left is full of. While they're also letting these migrants come in, giving them payments at the borders, making sure they have cell phones when they come across, making sure they have plane tickets and hotels to stay at. But you who wants to work and provide to your family and you work remote, you don't come across, you better get vaccinated. You better get vaccinated or you're going to lose your livelihood and you're going to lose everything. And they did that to how many millions of Americans? How many hundreds of millions of Americans were forced to do that? How many Americans were forced to give their kids the vaccine shot because they had to go to school? But yet, were immigrant children that were coming across the border forced to be vaccinated when they came across? Did they come across with their vaccination records? Were they given measles, hepatitis B, all this, rubella when they came across the border? Make sure they weren't bringing anything with them? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Why? Because they wanted to unleash carnage amongst the American people that we're still dealing with today, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's the reality. And if you don't believe me, we're going to go into some data now about the foreign-born population here in America. Okay? So this is from the Center for Immigration Studies, CIS. They have estimates that in the current population in America, they have the population of being between 12 and 16 million foreigners here in America illegally. That is a low ball estimate. Now, in that statistics, they say roughly 5.3 million U.S. citizen children are born to these illegal immigrants. Okay, so you have 5.3 first-generation illegal immigrant children being born here under the age of 18. Okay, according to recent Pew Research data, indicates that births to undocumented mothers account for roughly 8 to 9% of all annual births in America per year. So that equates to around 290,000 to 320,000 anchor babies being born here in America per year. That's what that comes down to. Now, when we say borders, language, culture is important, it's important. Borders are important because you are bringing in other people that don't speak the language here. If they're coming here illegally, a lot of them probably don't have the knowledge or work skills to financially succeed here in America. And then they're having babies here in America that all then come to be on the dime of who? You and me, the taxpayer. So when Joe's here talking about 54 cents on every dollar, there's a reason why, because you have to supplement the income for people that are coming here that don't have the money to take care of themselves. And they know that. And they know if they come here, our government will take care of them. It's become a priority. Right? So it's been a long-standing operation for over 20 years, 30 years, that this type of immigration has been going unchecked, basically. So if you have adults in America that are considered second generation, right? So first generation is born here. They have now kids. That population is around 23 million adults. First generation born here is around 18 to 20 million adults. So if you're looking at first generation and second generation foreign-born immigrants being born here in America that are now quote-unquote U.S. citizens, you're looking at around between 40 to 43 million people here in America that are first or second generation. Okay, that constitutes roughly 1 in 4 people living here in the United States are either foreign-born or are the U.S.-born children of a foreign-born parent. That's where we are in America. Let me say that to you again. That means more than 1 in 4 people living in the United States today are either foreign-born or the U.S.-born children of at least one foreign-born parent. Does culture have anything to do with a nation? And how do you erase a culture within a nation? That's how you do it. That's how you erase the culture within the nation. That's at least a facet of getting rid of a culture within a nation, replacing them with foreign-born populations. And that's what's happening here in America. 1 in 4. 1 in 4 people here in America are either foreign-born or a child of a foreign-born parent. Look how quickly that has happened. And that number is only going to grow, right? That's only going to grow. You have 20 million that came in under Biden. We're going to get 4 million out maybe under Trump if we're lucky. 16 million left here. Think about that exponential growth. Can't talk about it. Not allowed to talk about it. Right? But yet we're the most racist nation in the country that we allow all this to come in. We allow us to supplement it. We allow it all to happen. And then when you enforce the law, because coming into a country is illegal, and then when you come into the country and commit crimes, you are a felon. You need to go. That's enforcing law. If you don't like the law, change the law. No one can agree on immigration law. No one can agree on election law. Why? Because it creates chaos, and the chaos allows the opportunists to enrich themselves and to perpetuate more chaos to allow them to seize more power. Like, that's why all this keeps happening. That's why none of this is ever done. That's why when Trump's out of office, the border wall he is, quote unquote, building on the southern border is going to be taken down. It's going to be taken down. There's nothing codifying any of this stuff he's doing at the southern border into law. So what does that mean? That means Biden 2.0, whoever comes in after him, is going to come in there with forklifts and bulldozers, beat the shit out of that wall, knock it down. Hey, give me your tired boy. It's America. Everyone come on in. Let's do it all over again. And then we'll be like, oh, haven't seen this script before. But yeah. And then when we want to stand up and protect our country because we understand what's happening to our country, it's being destroyed from within. The culture within this country's eroding away. The work ethic is eroding away. It's making it harder for everyday Americans to provide for their children because everything costs so much more because of what has happened with the expanded population in this country from unchecked migration. Like, that's a hard reality. When you have 20 million people come in and you need places for them to live, that's going to jack up the property value. It's not that we didn't have property costs. It's not that we didn't have the housing available. The housing is available. We have enough of them, right? But when you bring in 30,000 people to a city and you have 10,000 units available, there's a problem there. And then not to mention the other people that live there are going to have to deal with competitive rates now because the people that are coming in have government funds paying for their apartments. So what does that mean? The rent's going to go up. People are going to have to pay more. You, the average Joe that used to live in $1,000 a month rent apartment, now has to pay $1,350 because everyone else around you that's coming in to live in your area is being funded by the government. So they got the money to pay for the increased rent. Boom. Americans lose. But I still don't understand how people don't see this correlation. I really don't. And then yesterday, if you heard, the Southern Pacific Law Center, the Southern Poverty Law Center got smacked with an indictment, right? Let's check out this cut. Let's play cut 3.
Poverty Law Center. Can you please speak a little bit about what you've learned as part of that investigation and if we should expect more charges?
So yes, today, my understanding is today there was an arrest made and there is a new indictment that includes the former CFO of SPLC. I don't have any comments about whether, we've said from the beginning, everybody, not just me, but anybody who's talked about this case, like virtually every criminal case, the fact that an indictment is returned doesn't end the investigation. It's just part of the investigation in most cases, which is certainly true in this case. I think as alleged in the indictment, this individual participated in the scheme as alleged. I believe she was part of the effort to open bank accounts in completely fictitious companies' names and make payments to individuals for reasons that were not that were not accurate as described. But I don't have. I think the indictment was unsealed this morning. I believe it was unsealed this morning. I think the arrest was this morning. I don't have anything to say beyond that, except to say that this is exactly what we said would happen in a case like this, which is that our investigators and the U.S. attorneys and the agents working the case can keep on working it even after the initial indictment.
Thank you.
So yeah, she was indicted because she was secretly funneling funds to white supremacist groups, the people that she claims that she was hating. The group she claims that her group was fighting against, because white supremacy is the biggest threat to minority communities in the history of this country. There's so much of a threat that she had to fund it. She had to fund it. The SPLC had to fund it. And if you don't believe me, listen to this clip of her. Let's play cut 4. This is Heidi Beirich, who is in cuffs right now.
Their views, I think white supremacy is, one of the worst things mankind has come up with. Well, I can have a direct impact on these movements. And in the first year I was there, we did some very good work, myself and my colleagues, exposing anti-immigrant networks in the United States, some of which are still functioning today.
So yeah, big liar. She's the one that's funding it. She's creating the size. She's creating the narrative. Her group is creating the narrative. She funded it. She created it. Create the problem, fund the problem, get rich off the problem, divide the hell out of the nation. When all this stuff was all nonsense and it wasn't going on. Are there Americans out there talking about we need America to be for Americans? Absolutely. It's not white supremacist. It's called being an American. Since when does being a proud American have anything to do with being white? Being an American is being an American. American can fall under any different ethnicity because being an American is an idea. Being an American is a culture. Being an American is a mindset. Being an American is having a certain set of beliefs. That's what makes somebody an American. Looking at me, you have no idea if I'm American. Looking at her, no idea if they're American. But when you talk to them, you should be able to figure out who's an American. That's the beauty of America. But people like her, groups like her, are working continuously around the clock to drive a wedge between that idea. Culture, right? Borders, language, culture. The American culture has been eroded away because of people and grifters and pieces of trash like her, SPLC, anyone that's involved in doing equity work in the school systems, at the colleges, at the local level as well, the school districts, all of it. Its sole purpose is to destroy the American culture, the fabric of America, and create a new America in their likeness and image, which is taking out retribution on white people, making white people pay who have nothing to do with slavery, but having white people pay for the slavery that occurred hundreds of years ago. That's it. Because that's what they use to explain why there is a achievement gap between minorities in America today. Even though the Spanish were the ones that began the slave trade here in America, no one will ever wants to discuss that actually brown people were enslaving black people before the white people got involved. You can't mention that. You can't mention that, especially to people that are entrenched in the equity work. Like, it will cause them to short circuit. They'll be like, no, slavery didn't exist like that. No, 1619 is how the slavery trade real started here in America. Yeah, no. Right? But it's purposely done to destroy and erode what America is. And they have been pretty successful in doing that to a majority of young children that have been through the school system over the past 20 to 30 years. And it's still coming. It's not stopping, right? Our Congress, our congressional leaders are doing nothing to outlaw DEI, CRT, Marxist communism in the school systems, class warfare, racial segregation, affinity groups. They're not doing anything at the federal level to outlaw any of it, right? If you have support groups in schools based on race, isn't that a civil rights violation? Isn't that anti-American? Isn't it? Asking for a friend. But yet there are schools and districts all throughout the country that allow this to happen. They're called affinity groups. They actually have affinity groups for teachers too. They actually have black leadership groups to make sure black teachers get placed into positions of authority in the district. They have the same thing for the Latinx group. They don't call them Latinos. They call them the Latinx group. That's woke 2.0, right? All that goes on, but nothing's being done about it. It's not considered racist. But if you had a white only group or a white leadership group, that would be racist. This all needs to stop. It all needs to stop at the end of the day. But it won't, because it's actually an attack on America. It's also an attack on white people. Let's be honest here. And I'm going to put this post up now, because this is going to be a post of the head of the SPLC, of him tracking the decline of the white population over time. Now, if you take a look here, the original uncropped image shows European % foreign-born, along with percentage change of that foreign-born. SPLC's definition of a hate group is any group wanting to reverse that genocidal decline. And then if you see there, you can read it on the picture there. That's SPLC's Mark Podik's office, tracking decline of white population plus percentage of change of foreign-born in Europe year over year. And then if you see on the left side of the screen, non-Hispanic whites, population of U.S. populations, 1920, 90%, 1940, 90%, 1960, 85%, 1980, 79%, 2000, 69%, 2012, 64%, 2013, 63%, 2015, 62%. Why is he tracking that if he's worried about white hate groups? Shouldn't he be tracking the decline of white hate groups or the increase of the percentage of white hate groups over that time? Why is he tracking the specific white population decline in America? And then if you take a look at the left side of that picture, and I'm sorry it's grayed out, it's the best one I could find online today. But if you take a look on the right side, he's actually showing the immigrant trends in Europe and actually how they're busting open, especially the top part of that chart, right? What was that? Germany, Austria, Hungary, Norway, right? And celebrating the increase of minorities into Europe. Why is someone that is supposed to be tracking white supremacist group tracking that? Because it's all a front. His ultimate goal and the SPLC's ultimate goal was decline of Europe, decline of America, really, but tied into European trends, decline of America, replacement theology, all control. There's no other reason to track that other than to make sure you're doing what you need to do, which is to kind of hammer away at the white population and America to make sure America is unrecognizable from what it once was. And people have been allowed to do that. And it's a reason, but call us a conspiracy theorist, but people have been allowed to do this. And why they've been allowed to do it, you guessed it, it all goes back to the election process. We have selected leaders put in charge by the stolen election system that props up these morons and idiots to promote the WEF and global agenda that leaves you, the average day American, who's working all the time, trying to provide for their family, scrapping for change. Well, look what happened in Wisconsin recently. And check out the news reporter's response to the news on air.
I guess the exact thing, yes, is if 5 of the USB sticks were missing results from the election, so then they have to go try to re-grab them. Yeah, and they're all the folks behind the scenes are talking about this as well, so we can also look. It's unfortunate.
The folks behind the scenes here, you're saying?
Yes.
Are how do I ask this artfully?
Always keeps happening. Always keeps happening. And that's NBC with the loss for words right there. Tongue-tied, doesn't have a clue on what to say. USB drives are missing that have the vote tallies on them. They don't turn up. Human error, they say. Really. How do you eliminate all this? Why do these things continuously happen? Because there's no answer to them that the ones in charge want to put into place, because if it was put into place, they'll be removed from power. So you just got to let us continuously be the laughing stock of the world with our election system. Like, we are really, if we're the world superpower, but we can't run our own election system, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? We are a laughing stock every which way. And you could say, oh, well, China has this. No, our election system's compromised as shit. We have tyrants and dictators in charge too, under the guise of democracy, because all this bullshit happens all the time. You can't trust anything. The only way you trust it is you go basic to the basic level, because technology is hackable. Joe has shown numerous times how they can get around the system to infiltrate the vote. So is Mark Cook, right? It is blatantly obvious how these systems can be infiltrated, and no one wants to fix them. Which leads into Joe's post about this. And Joe had real short, sweet message about it. The machines and the mail-in ballots have to go. It's a fraudulent system, all of it. Real Donald Trump. It's time to stop the bullshit gaslighting. No kidding. No kidding. We are done with the bullshit. We are done with the gaslighting. We want action. The Save America Act is not it. And then also, let's not remember, the Save America Act is now tied to the NDAA, which will then fuse the Israeli military operation with our military. AI, battle plan, all of it. All of it. So when we're out there selling pass the Save America Act, remember what's going to come with it. It's going to come in with the basic military hardware integration with us in Israel. Is that why all of a sudden the Save Act was the only chance it could get passed, was getting tied to that bill? Coincidentally, right? Just another thing to think about, another thing to follow, see what happens at the end of the day with all of it. But yeah, the machines and mail-in ballots have to go. In-person voting with voter ID at the precinct level. Yes, it's time-consuming. Yes, it's painful, but we need to get back to it, because that's what we need to do in order to make sure we have free and fair elections, and the will of the people are actually honored in this process. Truth be told. And it's not only here that we have sellouts in power, right? It's not just us. Sellouts in power all over the place, especially on the other side of the pond, especially United Kingdom, especially in Europe, especially Spain, France, Germany, right? All those countries have sold out to the third world. They sold out to the WEF and the global agenda and to the replacement theology of bringing in third world migrants into their country. And even if you just watch the World Cup, if you watched the World Cup a couple months ago, seen some of these countries, looking at the demographics of these countries, like, whoa, that's the French team this day? There's one white dude on it. Spain looks pretty much the same. Portugal looks pretty much the same, like reflecting their demographics, but England, Germany, France. It's just blatantly obvious, and just see what those demographics look like in another 4 years now when the next World Cup comes around. But yeah, let's take a look at Europe anyway. Let's take a look at this stat out of the United Kingdom that just got reported over the past year. Britain is broken. The UK recorded a staggering 74,727 rapes in the year ending March of 2026. 70,727, a literal rape genocide. Yes, so from March of 25 to March of 26, there was 74,727 rapes that occurred. On average, that's 205 recorded rapes per day. That is 205 recorded rapes per day, or about 8.5 rapes per hour. How is that remotely possible? Well, this conversation is going to get a little bit uncomfortable here, but let's put up the next post and let's take a look at what has changed in England over the past, 70 years. England in 1950 had 5 mosques. England in 2026, 1,750 mosques. Casey Kroll says this is what an invasion looks like. Now, could this have anything to do with the increased rape numbers in England and Europe? It's hard pressed to make an argument that it doesn't. Can anyone make an argument that it doesn't? I can make an argument it can. As you're bringing in third world migrants that are Muslim, that are Islamic, that are, some of them are extremists. Let's be honest here. They're not all, I'm here coming to England for a better life. No, they're coming because they're Muslim extremists, and there's a holy war going on the Muslim side to conquer Europe and America, the Red Green Alliance, and it's being carried out. It's being carried out in real time. And that's what England looks like. Look at that change from 1950 to 2026. What is that, 76 years, one generation, one lifetime? That's what it looks like. 74,000 rapes in the past year alone. Well, do the English have a way of defending themselves? Can women walk around with concealed carry weapons? Do they have guns in England? Can the citizenry actually protect themselves? And the short answer is no, they can't. In England, you cannot protect yourselves in public. Okay, first off, in English law, owning a firearm is considered a privilege rather than a right. So you don't have a right to own a firearm from birth. You don't have a right to own it. You don't have a right to possess it. None of that does not exist. It's a privilege in England. So what does that mean? A privilege can be granted or taken away from somebody. And that's why the population of England is under the boot of the third world migrants that are taking over their country, because they have no actual way to defend themselves. They won't fight against it. They can't fight against it. Okay, listen to what you have to jump through in order to get a weapon in England. I did some research this morning. Listen what you got to jump through to get through to own a firearm in England. Individuals must apply for a specific license, either a firearm certificate or a shotgun certificate issued by their local police force. Sounds like what happens here now. Demonstrating good reason to obtain a firearm certificate. An applicant must demonstrate a valid reason to possess each specific weapon. So you need examples could include pest control, hunting, or target shooting as a member of an approved shooting club. Self-defense, check this out, self-defense is excluded. Self-defense is not legally recognized as a valid reason to acquire or possess a firearm in England. Okay, self-defense, no sir. Vetting and background checks. The police conduct stringent background checks, including property inspections for secure storage, criminal records review, medical assessments from the applicant's general practitioner. And most handguns were largely banned following the 1997 Firearms Amendment Act. Automatic firearms, semi-automatic centerfire rifles are prohibited for general public ownership. So you have no way of really protecting yourself. You got to go hand to hand. Cannot use weapons. And then if you want a weapon, you need to prove why you need a weapon. Not to defend yourself, but you're part of this, you do this, you do this. You have to jump through all these hoops to get a firearm. Not for self-defense, though. Not for self-defense. So I had a conversation with Gemini about this, and I asked, well, what can be used? What can you use as self-defense in England? So listen to some of this stuff that they said. Legally speaking, people in England cannot carry anything specifically for the purpose of self-defense if it is intended to be used as a weapon. Pepper spray, CS gas, classified as firearms under United Kingdom law, chemical sprays are completely illegal to possess. Stun guns and tasers, prohibited weapons. Knives, carrying any knife in public without a good reason, such as a folding pocket knife with a blade under 3 inches or a knife needed for work or camping, is illegal. If you carry a knife specifically because you are worried about being attacked, it is treated as an offensive weapon. Batons, brass knuckles, or improvised impact weapons, anything explicitly made or adapted to cause injury is banned. So what can you use? You could use high decibel personal panic alarms, highly recommended by the UK police at effectively drawing unwanted attention to an attacker. You could use everyday items such as a flashlight, house key, or an umbrella. So if you're a 5'5", 5'6", 5'7" average woman in England, being approached by a group of 2 to 3 Muslim migrants, I hope you have an umbrella with you. I hope you have a key. And maybe that's why they've had over 74,000 rapes in England over the past year, is because their citizenry is a sitting duck. Their women are targets. And their men have no balls or backbone in England. That's why we beat the shit out of them over 250 years ago. They have no balls. They have no backbone. And they sit there and watch their 74,000 women get raped and pillaged. They're okay with it. That's the reality over in England. A nation that is completely gone. A nation that's completely gone. And it's not only isolated in England, though. It's not only isolated in England, right? We had don't forget about the breakthrough that happened in Ceuta, Spain a couple weeks ago. Well, there's an update coming out of there. Let's put up this update out of Ceuta, Spain. Authorities in Ceuta have reported at least 100 have died and 5 girls under the age of 14 have been raped after the storming of the border by 70,000 illegal migrants. Holy shit. The same thing seems to happen. Third world migrants storm first world countries and rape the women. It's not something new. These are not isolated events. These children are under 14 being raped by these third world migrants that are coming, and they're Muslim. Okay, I'm going to call it as is. They're Muslims coming in. You don't believe me? Okay, where are the migrants from? They're from Morocco. The overwhelming majority of the migrants involved in the Ceuta crossing in July of 26 are Moroccan citizens. Morocco is approximately 99% Muslim. Algeria is another notable portion comes from Algeria, which is approximately 99% Muslim. And then you have the ones that come from sub-Sahara Africa, Senegal, roughly 97% Muslim, Mali, roughly 95% Muslim, and Guinea, around 85% Muslim, coming into Ceuta during that breach of the border, unchecked breach of the border. And then you have this happen. You have the numbers happening in England happening. But hey, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm just talking out of my ass. I don't know any of this, right? But it's not all Muslims, but there are a radical facet of Islam that believes that they have a right to rape and pillage the land that they are conquering. And that is being carried out all throughout the West, in Europe, here in America. It's happening in both places. It's happening in both places. And if you don't believe me, check out this clip of a female Muslim TV host explaining what can happen to non-Muslim women during time of war.
حرب من النساء هم ملك اليمين، بمعنى إن عشان أذلهم بيصبحوا ملكا للقائد أو للجيش أو للمسلم يستمتع بيهم كما يستمتع بزوجاته. بعض بقى المتنطعين والمتشددين واللي بيسيئوا إلى الإسلام يقول لك أنا أجيب واحدة من شرق آسيا تكون ملك يمين وبموافقة زوجتي أخصص لها غرفة وأستمتع بيها كملك يمين. هذا هراء وهذا ادعاء يعني لا يقول به الإسلام إطلاقا، لأن الإسلام بيقول إما على الزوجة وإما ملك اليمين. فإحنا هنا ملك اليمين المشروع هو نتيجة أسرى الحرب ضد المسلمين، ضد اغتصاب الأرض، ضد العقيدة، ضد. فما يفعله البعض الآن هذا اعتداء على حدود الله واعتداء على نصوص الله الشرعية في القرآن، وأرجو ألا نتأثر به إطلاقا.
So yeah, they can become property of the Muslim army. And then if you take a look at what actually breaks through the borders that came over to this country, predominantly military-aged men, what crossed the border in Ceuta, Spain, predominantly military-aged men. Why? Why are they seeking refuge? Their lives are so hard in their country. Their families are at risk. Their wives are at risk. Their girls, their families are at risk. But they're leaving all of them behind in these savagest parts of the world to come here to America. Yeah, I buy it. No, they're coming here because this is a religious war that the Muslims are carrying out. And if you don't believe me, it doesn't take more than 2 minutes to go find random imam videos of preachers here in America. And that's the other thing I don't get, is that you have these imams all throughout America that are talking about what they're doing here in America, taking us over. This is a jihad. Jihad means holy war. So if they're in a holy war, they see our women as spoils of their war. Whether or not they're winning or losing, they see them as spoils of war. So we're going to take the women, we're going to rape the women, we're going to make them fear us. Everything that these radical Muslims do in public is done purposely to instill fear into Americans, right? Even actually putting Islamic women in the whole hijab covering, it's to instill fear. It's psychological warfare. Islam means submission. That's what they're looking to do, is create the submission of Americans and Europeans to their culture. And they will rape the women in order to do it. And then there's another facet that believes in Islam also. We played clips on this a while ago, but there's other facets of Islam believe that if women are not covered up or wearing burqas to cover everything, that they're actually tempting the Islamic men, and then the Islamic men have a right to go carry that out as well, because you tempted me, you're not covering up. So yeah, it's an actual real deal thing that's going on. So the increase of rapes in Europe, specifically around the UK, 74,000 within a year. Do I believe it has something to do with the third world migrants, specifically the Muslims that came into that country? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I believe it also has the same to do in the Norwegian countries and in Germany. Also here in America to an extent. I believe all that's happening. And they tell you that it's part of their culture. It's part of what they see. This is their religious war against the West and America. This is their war against Christianity. And you have to call it out. And the church has to call it out. But the church doesn't, because the church stays in the middle. Church isn't a good man. Church is a nice guy. The church goes along to get along. And you know what happens to people that go along to get along? They go along for a while until they actually are put into a corner, and then they're... because they can't just go along to get along anymore, because eventually, every time in life, you need to draw a line in the sand, and you need to stand on principle eventually. You eventually have to do that. Otherwise, you're going to be at the end of the rope. That's why I'm not a That's why I'm not a nice guy. I consider myself a good man. I don't get along with people. I stand on principles, which means I have some friends. I piss some people off, and then I'll take you to court, and we'll fight it out there too. Because I'm a stubborn son of a bitch. I stand on principles. I can't wait to get into the courtroom against Cherry Creek. Can't wait to get in there. I'm looking forward to this ruling coming down. It's been about 3 months. Still haven't heard from the 10th Circuit though. 10th Circuit has been awfully quiet. They've been issuing rulings all over the place, cases that are heard on the same day as me, cases that have been heard after me. But my case is still being holstered. I wonder why. Are they trying to figure out how to split the baby? Are they just going to say, yeah, you really have no work protections whatsoever as a public school employee for First Amendment? Meaning that as a school, I could ask you a personal belief question and then I could fire you for that personal belief question. That is the bare minimum of protection for the First Amendment, I believe. If your employer asks you a personal belief question and then fire you based on that personal belief question, there is no free speech protection in America if that's allowed. That is the bare minimum protection of free speech you could give. So the 10th Circuit's got a decision to issue still. I'm waiting. I'm sure Cherry Creek's waiting. I'm sure my lawyers are waiting at AFL. We're just waiting to see what's next because we're not going anywhere. And also, just so you know, for the viewers that have been following my case, we actually attached my case to a brief that's going in front of the Supreme Court now because there's a teacher, I believe in Montgomery County, I believe it was Maryland, that was fired for refusing to do pronoun usage, I believe. So my case is being attached to her case as a brief, encouraging the Supreme Court to take her case up. So long and short of it, we're not going anywhere. I don't know if Cherry Creek has got the memo yet, right? But those people there, they have no credibility anyway. Just so we're clear, the school year is about to start. This would have been my 20th year in education. I would have started my 20th year in education. I swear I thought I was going to retire as a dean because I really thought I found my happy place in the position I was doing because I was able to connect with so many kids and just help problem solve so many problems. I enjoyed my work. But you can't love America and work for a school district, apparently, here in Colorado. So I lost it. Took everything away from me. About to start my 20th year. But on the bright side, I can say this. To the Cherry Creek School District, to the Cherry Creek Equity Department, pretty much everyone in your district knows how much frauds all of you are. Ron Garcia, E. Ortiz, Courtney Smith, Angie Zahner, LaToya, Tolbert, right? Dr. Omar Montgomery, all of you at Cherry Creek, right? All of you in that equity, community engagement, whatever, however you want to kind of dance it up, right? Everyone knows in your school district, all the teachers in your buildings, they know you're frauds. They smile when you walk into the room because they know they'll get fired if they don't play the game with you. And maybe that's how weak people need to survive. Maybe that's what you need. Because yeah, all your teachers know you're a fraud and you're a sham. All of them. Because word is spread about you. So next stop is getting you guys out of the position of power is next. Because it's very abundantly clear you're not going to change course or hold anyone accountable for what you guys have done. So next step is to get you people out. Your equity department, Ron needs to go. Omar Montgomery needs to go. Courtney Smith needs to go. Sonia McKenzie, head of legal, needs to go. She's actually the head of the snake over there. She is the head of the snake over there. Let me tell you why. Okay? There's a lawsuit out there for Cherry Creek School District that a student was suspended, 3 students were put up for expulsion because of comments they made off campus. Well, it turns out the 10th Circuit actually had a ruling on that, on a very similar case involving Cherry Creek from years prior. The 10th Circuit ruled out here in Colorado that students cannot be disciplined for off-campus speech. It's a ruling. It's in the 10th Circuit. Let me pull it up. Stand by. Sorry, did not know I was going there on this one today. Sorry, guys. Yep, it's CG versus Siegfried. It happened in September of 2019. A 15-year-old high school junior identified as CG at Cherry Creek High School in Colorado was at a thrift store with friends on a Friday night. He posted anti-Semitic video. Despite the post occurring off campus on a weekend, Cherry Creek School District suspended CG, extended the suspension, and ultimately expelled him for over a full year for violating school conduct policies. So the family appealed, and basically the ruling established a firm precedent across the 10th Circuit, which covers Colorado, Kansas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Utah, and Wyoming. While off campus, offensive or hateful speech by students is abhorrent, public schools face a very high legal bar to punish students for off-campus speech that does not amount to a true threat, targeted harassment, or a severe disruption to school operations. So, as the head of the legal department of Cherry Creek School District, who was the head of the legal department when this lawsuit happened, and she knows what the ruling of that lawsuit is, she still decided to say, nope, these 3 young ladies need to go up for expulsion. So Sonia McKenzie is also the head of the snake at the Cherry Creek School District because she promotes this equity agenda. And they all need to be put out because all they're doing right now, they know they messed up. They know they're in trouble. They're fighting every which way to keep this out of court. But what they're doing for themselves is to make sure they keep collecting their 6-figure salaries, their pension, and get closer to retirement before ultimately having to pay the piper and face accountability. That's what they are. They are the ultimate grifters over at that district. All righty. I'm going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue with the education debauchery here in America. Stay tuned.
Oh, hi. I almost didn't see you there. Welcome to DCF Buns, where you can find the freshest buns in town, if I do say so myself. Our master bakers teach class every week. So whether you're new to baking or trying to improve your culinary skills, we got you covered. And we can help you bake the cake of your dreams. We'll even clean your cake if you want. And if you don't want to bake anything yourself, we have loads of fresh buns available in a variety of shapes and sizes. Check us out at dcfbuns.com to learn more. DCF Buns. We keep the buns hot and the deals hotter. Buns.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
So I know we have like some efforts to increase diversity in the district. So I'm wondering, especially around administration, are there financial incentives for Black and brown people to work here? It's an extra burden, quite frankly, to be a Black and brown teacher and administrator in the district. And so I think we should start thinking about that financially if we're not already. But I know we call ourselves leaders. And I know we have an Office of Equity and Belonging, so I'm sure we can figure it out. We got money. It's West Hartford.
There you go. The equity grift keeps on grifting. People like that are in charge, and they promote the divisiveness. It's hard being a Black educator, hard being a Black administrator. We need to be paid more money. It's absurd. It's absurd. Why is it harder? Can you tell me why? You're in charge. You make the rules. Why is it harder? Just out of curiosity, if you're in administration and you're a Black individual, does she speak for you? If so, I'd love to hear from you. Please shoot me an email at patrick@untamednation.com. I would love to have you on my show, or our show. Have you on a show to discuss the hardships you face as a Black educator in America. I would love to discuss that with you because I'm intrigued as she's sitting up there with her cat ears. And that's, mind you, that's at West Hartford, Connecticut. That's in a pretty affluent area of America. And just to give you a little quick rundown of their academic paralysis over there, 68 to 69% of students score at or above proficiency in reading and language arts. So 7 out of 10 kids can read at or above grade level. That's pretty good comparatively speaking where we are in America today. So 7 out of 10, okay. 60% of students score at or above proficiency in math. So 6 out of 10 are proficient in math. So I guess they're feeling pretty good about themselves that they need to worry about increasing pay for Black administrators and Black teachers instead of finding money to bring up the other 30% and 40% that are behind in math and reading. But that's what equity does. It's a grift. No one cares. Those in equity don't care about the benefit of life of the kids that they supposedly serve. They don't care. They're looking to make their 6 figures, get their company card, get their increased pay for their retirement. That's all they're concerned about. Because if you're really concerned about achievements, you would never bring up paying Black and brown teachers more. You say, what funds do we have to make sure our kids are learning at the best of their ability? What are we doing to close that achievement gap? Equity never answers that. Equity never closes an achievement gap. The only thing equity does is lower the bar for everybody. That's all equity ever does. It lowers the bar for everyone, makes everyone dumber, and enriches those that preach racism around them to enrich themselves. That's what equity allows for. Let's be clear here. That's what equity allows for. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to play this one. This cut is very impactful if you're a teacher that cares about the betterment of your kids. If you're an individual that works in education and you care about bettering your kids, this cut definitely hit home. Play cut 2.
These kids are leaving high school and going to college, and they couldn't fill in 4 words. 4 words. I literally broke down in the middle of class. This is only day 2. And I have seniors who simply cannot read and seniors who cannot write. They can reason. They have the ability to defend their reasoning if it's talking to their homeboy, but applying that to a written text, 2 paragraphs, and they couldn't do it. Our young Black men, our young brown men, our young Black girls, and our young brown girls.
He's upset about it, rightfully so. And if you've been in education, you know he's speaking the truth. You know there are seniors that are walking out of high schools that cannot read or write, which, by the way, I don't understand how if you walk out of a public high school that is funded with taxpayer money and you're given a diploma that says you have graduated and you completed everything you needed to complete in order to graduate this 4-year school and this school district, but you can't read or write, I don't know how you don't have a class action lawsuit against the district for providing you a bullshit education. I don't know how that's possible. Because if a school district is willing to sign off on a piece of paper saying you have met all the requirements needed to graduate from this district, but yet one of the requirements to graduate from this district is to be able to read isn't to be able to read and write, what does that tell you? And unfortunately, it's not just the school system. It's deeper than that. It starts with parenting. Yeah, I'm going to say it. It starts with parenting. Schools are not in charge of teaching your kid how to read. You are. Schools are a tool to help your kid to know how to read. But the ultimate one that is responsible for your kid to know how to read is you, the parent. You give your kids the tools to be successful before they step foot in the school system. That's what you're supposed to do. My wife reads with our boy every day. My wife has great patience with it. I'm a teacher, but my wife has done the reading lessons with our boy. My wife enjoys it. I enjoy it when I do it, but it's her thing. God bless her, it's her thing. I guess when we get into history, that'll be my thing. But the reading, my wife is doing it every day. My boy just started pre-K. Okay? It's your job. It's your job. The school system will never teach your kid how to read. The school system may teach your kid how to put together letters, put together sounds, to be maybe a functioning literate, but to read and write, not a chance in hell. And it is your job as a parent to do that. It is your job to start picking up the books and doing the sounds and doing the letters with your child day in and day out. It's your job, not no one else's. Well, I'm tired. Well, guess what? You're setting your kid up to be a failure just like you. And we have too much of that going on in this world. We have too much absentee fatherism in this world. We have too many dads with too many baby mamas also, the other way around. Right? It's a whole complete mess down there for our children. And then you think a school system is going to be able to handle a kid coming in not knowing what their ABCs are into kindergarten? No, they're not. They're never going to be able to catch up at that point. Right? So it's you as a parent is the one that needs to be blamed for it. And I feel the heartache in that gentleman. I feel it because I felt it for years too. But I couldn't teach kids when they were in high school to read or write because I had to teach them content. And they were progressed through every level through the education system, not being the basic skills to read or write. But they were allowed to go to second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade. You want to know why? Because we adopted social emotional learning. We believed that holding kids accountable for their grades and behavior was not acceptable because it will harm them socially and emotionally. So you just make them, you create ignorance, you perpetuate ignorance, you promote ignorance, and then you get ignorance into the real world. And then you look around and you wonder what the hell happened here. Yeah, because these kids were never held accountable either. The parents were never held accountable either. Right? Let's talk about, hey, what should be done for taxes, tax purposes, helping families out. How about you help the married family that stays together? Give them a tax credit. How about you give a tax credit per kid in a married family that stays together? How about you give a tax credit if the kid is reading at grade level when entering school? How about you reward the families that are doing everything right instead of rewarding people that do everything wrong? Life is all about choices. Sending your kid into an elementary environment without being able to functionally read before they get into kindergarten, that is parenting fault 101. Does the school exacerbate that fault? Yes, it does. Yes, it most certainly does. That's why as kids grow older, if you don't cut that reading deficit in half each grade level early on, they'll never catch up. They'll never catch up. It's basic. And guess what? It's never going to catch up because in order to close a gap of deficiency somewhere, you have to put more time and effort into that gap in deficiency. And school systems don't do that. Schools don't put in more remedial reading and writing classes for kids, making kids actually come to school early or stay later because you can't do that. No, can't do that. Right? But those kids need to be able to learn that they need to sacrifice in order to actually close an achievement gap or a deficit somewhere. It's never going to be closed overnight. It's never going to be closed overnight. It's not magically going to be closed. You have to work harder, right? A fat person, well, you got Ozempic now. So minus Ozempic, your bones are going to break anyway in 5 years because of that drug. But it's like a fat person trying to lose weight. A fat person is not going to be able to lose weight if they eat the same thing as a regular person does. They need to eat less. And guess what else they're going to need to do? They're going to need to exercise more. So you need to devote time and energy to your area of deficit. You have to do that if you want to lose weight, to get into shape. You have to do that if you want to learn how to read and write. But the school system refuses to do that because ultimately the purpose of the school system is to make sure you have an uninformed populace that can be controlled by the media propagate. That's why. And if you don't think this is all interrelated, check out the next post about about the University of California and what they're looking at. Let's put that post up. Wow, 1,000 University of California professors signed an open letter to the Board of Regents demanding they bring back standardized testing after it was removed during COVID for equity. They reveal that many STEM students are below middle school level in math. No kidding. The SAT mathematics requirement is not an obstacle to equity. Rather, it is a prerequisite for it. Failing to measure preparation gaps does not remove barriers. It moves them into the classroom where they become harder to overcome. Whoa, you don't say. But in California, you had politicians do away with the SATs and all these requirements to get more kids into colleges. It didn't matter that the kids didn't have the skills to be into college. We just need to bump the rates and just get many people in there. Also get them hooked on the student loan, the debt cycle and the student loan propagate circle of college loans. Need to get them uploaded into that. But you have college professors saying, yo, enough is enough with the wokeness because the kids that are getting into college now can't do middle school math. But equity is the ticket to everything. Right, Ron? Right, Cherry Creek? Equity is the ticket to everything. No, it's not. It's a ticket to your six-figure salary to move into a white, affluent neighborhood. That's why people get into equity, right? They never move back to the poor part of town. They always move to the rich, affluent part of town. Fraudsters. And who gets harmed in all of this? Who gets harmed in all of this? The children. The children get harmed. Because they're not being prepared. They're not ready. And then they go to college. They're not going to succeed in college. Right? Boom, 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 boom. You're starting up the cycle of failure. All because of equity. And then you think the University of Michigan would have learned from this. But the University of Michigan is going the other way. The University of Michigan just announced that they will eliminate traditional letter grading system for incoming freshman students. Why? To combat the mental health crisis among students. Yes, this is for real. And the mental health crisis for students is that failing becomes a reality in college. You get an F. You don't get credit. What do you mean I don't get credit? I handed work in. Yeah, but it wasn't any good. What do you mean? I handed it in. It doesn't matter. I handed work in. I passed. You didn't learn anything. You get an F, sir. Do some research on grading for equity. That explains all of this, right? Because in the public school system, there's this policy called grading for equity. Read up about it. Take a look at it. See if your district follows it. But grading for equity does not allow any student to fail as long as they hand in some type of work. The work doesn't even have to be good quality. Doesn't even have to be on topic. It just has to be something that is handed in that is relatable to the topic assigned. And then that student passes. So if you're able to get through college, if you're able to get through middle school and high school that way, because other than that, that'll be systemic oppression in the lane of equity. Then you get into college because there's no requirements to get into college now. You don't need to prove anything, just get in. And then a professor says, what the hell is this? You're 18 and you write like you're 5? You're failing. And then those kids start melting down and honestly, they self-harm and hurt themselves. So because the weak, once again, the weak set policy for everyone else. But what about those kids that are striving to do great things at Michigan? 4.0, cum laudes. Nah, it doesn't matter. Nope. You don't get letter grades. You're not allowed to get them because the weaklings over here are going to hurt themselves if they do get bad grades. And that's kind of why we started the whole social promotion thing through the school systems, right? I remember this happening when I was in school, right? There was a push about not holding kids back because kids committed suicide and hurt themselves. So in order to combat kids killing themselves and hurting themselves because of academic failures, you just did away with any standards in academia. We're dealing with the repercussions of that now. And then check out this from New York City today, from New York Post last week. Today's cover, New York 3rd through 5th graders fail basic reading tests with more than half not even proficient. And then if you take a look at, why can't our kids read? I can tell you why. Because the majority of your students in New York City public schools are first and second generation. That's the end of it. The majority of kids in the public school system don't speak English in New York City. A lot of them don't. So how can you actually succeed in the English environment in the public school system in New York City if you can't test in the language that it's given to you in? Well, then we need to give the test in the other languages. No, we don't. We need to actually have kids learn the language that are here, right? And that's what it all comes down to. You need to make people learn the language when they come to this country. You cannot be successful in a foreign country if you cannot read or speak the language. How successful are you going to be in France? How successful are you going to be in Germany? How successful are you going to be in China or Russia or Japan or Egypt or Iran or Morocco or Iraq or Afghanistan or the UAE if you don't speak or read the native language? Because you think those countries all give English versions to every white guy that comes across there that wants to work in business? No, they don't. Are there churches in those countries for those people? For Christians? No, there's not. But here in America, we give everything and everything out. But to answer, to really break this down, children that get in, immigrant children that come into the school system need to actually go into remedial English classes first. They need to go into remedial English only classes first. And then once they have a basic grasp of the English language, then they should be able to enter the public education. Notice how I'm not saying they should be kicked out, by the way. You pick up on that, Ronnie boy? Because I don't believe that. I don't believe kids should be kicked out because of immigration status. You may think I think that, but I never did. And I never do. Do I believe there's illegal immigrants should be deported? Yes, I do. But if a kid is in the school system, the kid's here. It is what it is. Hopefully that kid turns out all right and doesn't actually cost the system more than he actually makes money for the system. It doesn't cost the system money. Because let me break this down to you about the economic cost of what it is to bring English language learners into the classroom. So New York City spends roughly $37 billion a year to educate about 150,000 kids. Did you hear that right? They spend $37 billion a year for 850,000 kids. That's around $42,000 per kid they spend. Okay, on average. But then because a decent amount of kids in the New York City public school system are immigrants, are second language learners, right? So you need to take that into account because as a public school system, you need to actually meet the needs of these kids. It's law. Not gonna lie, it's law. You have to actually meet the needs of these kids where they are language-based wise, right? Right? You gotta, oh man, I forgot the phrasing. I used to use it all the time when I was in the classroom, but I haven't been in the classroom in so long. I forgot what it was. But just so you know, educating an English language learner in the public school system roughly costs an additional 15 to 40% more than it costs an average student. So let me put that into layman's terms for you. If a district spends an average of $14,000 per student for an English language learner in the same district, it will cost between $16,000 and $19,000 per year to cover that student. So English language learners actually cost the districts more. It costs the average taxpayer more money to educate a migrant's kid than your own. Borders, language, culture. Borders, language, culture. And if you think about it, there's a lot of things that go into supporting second language learners in the classroom. Translation services, specialized staff. Some of them need navigating the housing market, finding a house or a shelter, right? There's a lot of resources, food that go into clothing. Schools do it. Excuse me. But yeah, that actually happens. Go back to the beginning of this. Borders, language, culture. America is being eroded away from within, all systemically being done because our borders were broken down, our language has been eviscerated, and our culture is being smashed into the wind. We need to bring it all back in order to reclaim this country. Otherwise, this country will be smashed into the wind, into 1,000 pieces into the wind. You cannot sustain this. It's impossible to. And I know the Republicans and Trump were in charge. I get all that. Do you really think we're in charge? Do you really feel like we're winning? Then put the flip side of the coin. What's it going to look like when the other side's in charge? It's a tough spot we're in. It's a tough spot. But we need to stick with borders, language, culture, American values, being true to yourself, and let God hash them out when they all get up there, because there'll be a lot of empty space, I think, in heaven by the time people get up there, because there's just too much evil down here. There's too much evil to believe that a lot of people are going to be making it into heaven, because I don't believe so. I might not get in. I'm trying my damnedest. I'm trying real hard. Trying real hard. But yeah, maybe there'll be some more open space up there. And I don't believe it's open borders. I believe there's a very rigorous checkpoint that you got to get to before you enter in. So yeah, those that don't believe in borders down here, they'll get a dose of what a real border is in the afterlife, I guess, then. But with that, I'm going to pray us out. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Dear Lord, thank you for the tremendous opportunity to speak to the Untamed Nation fam today. Thank you, Lord, for giving me the chair, giving me the tools, giving me the team to bring a quality, productive show to our audience. Dear Lord, thank you for a beautiful day. A little cooler temperatures today. We needed a break from the heat. Thank you for the rain that we had last night. We need more of it. Please, let's bring the rain out west. Dear Lord, thank you for America First Legal and my law group and the fight that they're enduring for me that we take on. And dear Lord, please give the 10th Circuit some wisdom, some guidance, some courage to do what's right. We know what is right here. Dear Lord, I ask you to give them the power and the wherewithal to see it through. Lord, please give our leaders the political will and the knowledge and the insight to start steering this ship in a different direction, getting it straightened out before we are gone forever. Hey, Grandma, Grandpa, Dad, love and miss you guys every day. Thank you for being here. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for our sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. In the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. All right, everyone. No surprises. Just gonna be honest with you. I'll be in chair tomorrow. We'll have an awesome guest. Dr. McCullough will be joining us. So definitely tune in. We're gonna have a fire conversation tomorrow. All right. So we'll check you tomorrow. Class dismissed.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Tame nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah.